Hi, I'm Amelia. I'm a young person living with type 1 diabetes. I'm a young leader for the Together Type 1 programme with Diabetes UK. Come and join me on DigiTalks, where I talk about my experience of living with type 1 diabetes and also about the new school's training platform.
I wish the people knew that I have a serious condition, what it is, and how to deal with it.
When I'm hypo, I can't do any work because I can't concentrate at all.
Yeah, I just don't feel the best, and I'm not me when I'm having a hypo or a hypo.
Once I had someone say to me, "Oh, you're diabetic. How are you diabetic? You're not fat."
It can make me upset sometimes when the teachers don't understand and they don't know what to do.
When I go hypo, it kind of makes me difficult to focus on my work. So say if we're doing like a test, I kind of have to like stop it because I don't want to get the answer wrong.
At the moment at high school, it's getting a bit harder than usual because at primary school, I had a lot of help from the TAs and stuff, but now I'm at a bigger school. I have to do it individually.
Diabetes is always with me everywhere I go, everything I do. And no matter where I am, I still have it.
Our pupils have various different teachers from, they could have in a day, they have 6 lessons, so 6 different teachers. So that's 6 different people to know that this pupil has diabetes and what to do if anything goes wrong.
The young person is the key in this. So if the young person comes to you and says, you know, I feel like I'm going into a hypo, making sure that you know what needs to happen next. And listening to the young person.
Every young person's diabetes is different and managed differently. Some people might be on a pump, some people might be on injections, some people might have a glucose sensor or a scanner, or other people may be checking their blood glucose.
We maintain normality as much as possible for that pupil, as in most cases, if not all, that's exactly what they want.
Hello. I can't do any work.
Type 1
Hello, good evening and welcome to our DigiTalks event. It's great to be here. Thank you all for joining us. We have a packed schedule for you this evening, which we hope you will enjoy. My name's Sam. I'm part of the DigiBeat team and also a parent to a daughter living with type 1. My daughter was diagnosed when she was in primary school at age 10 and she's 21 now and studying for a master's degree. Time flies, I'm sure you will all agree with me on that. Anyway, enough about me. We've got lots coming up over the next hour and 15 minutes. But to begin with, please do introduce yourselves in the chat if you haven't already. It's there for you to take part in the event as well. Tell us what's your connection to type 1. Are you a parent, a healthcare professional? Do you work in a school, or are you a young person living with type 1? We'd also love to hear about what you're looking forward to in tonight's event, so do share those comments with us. This is a live streamed event going out on all our social media channels, but if you do miss anything or want to watch anything back, you can find this and all previous events on the DigiTalks webpage, and we'll have more details on that for you soon. So tonight is all about our new schools training platform. And this platform has been developed with healthcare professionals. From the national network in England and Wales. It's suitable for everyone, but it is possible that regional variances may apply to some parts of the content. You will find helpful information in the resources section if that applies to you if you're in Scotland or Ireland. So do have a look at that, and Tom will be showing us that later on in the session as well. So that is under the legal responsibilities part. So what's coming up this evening? We have a live show around of the schools training platform. Tom's going to be showing you around that and how that looks. Then we have our panel chat, where we will hear from parents, teachers and young people themselves, sharing their thoughts on the new platform. And we'll also be letting you know about lots of other really helpful resources from us and our partners, Breakthrough T1D and Diabetes UK. If you want to have a look at our resources, you can go to our website, and we have some QR codes here, which will take you to the different sections. Also on our website, we have the DigiTalks webpage, and of course you can find the schools training platform at www.diabetesinsschools.org. Just to give you a little bit more information about our schools resources. Our website has tailored resources for you. Sorry, Tom, are these slides? Could you just start the slides again? Sorry about this, guys. Just coming back to you with the slides now. So the QR codes, and that's it. Perfect. Thanks, Tom. Sorry. Just so, yeah, so we've got the schools training platform there, diabetesinsschools.org. Okay, on to the next one. This is where I got a bit lost. Sorry about that, guys. So our website has different sections for the different key stages in school. You'll be able to find tailored information for preschool, primary school and secondary school to support you on that journey and help you find what you need. Good diabetes care in school is why we're here, and it is absolutely vital to ensure that children can thrive and feel safe in their environment. We'd also like to signpost you to our partner resources, Breakthrough T1D and Diabetes UK. They both have fantastic school packs and other information for you to explore. If you would like to use the QR codes here and find those resources, they are definitely worth a look. We've definitely found them very helpful in the past. Breakthrough T1D have an upcoming virtual event that you might be interested in. This will be focusing on advocacy. DigiBeat will be there as part of the lineup, and you can sign up on their website or using the QR code here. We would love you to get involved this evening, as I've already mentioned, so do put your questions in the chat, and the DigiBeat team will be here to answer those questions for you. So we'll be keeping an eye on those, and we may spotlight some of those as we go through the event tonight. As with all community events, we just have a couple of housekeeping things to go through and mention. We know the Type 1 community is full of wonderful people, and I know you will all know this, but if you are using the chat, please bear in mind these DigiTalks values. We really do want everyone to enjoy the event this evening. Also, just to say, if anyone is affected by anything covered this evening, or if you want to find out more, please do get in touch with us by email at hello@digibeat.org. You can look at our website. There's a contact form on there, and if you do have the app, if you need your clinic code, you can ask for that from your diabetes team if you are part of a children or young person's diabetes team. Okay, so let's get started. First up, we want to play Matthew's film, which is about what happens before the school day even starts. It's a brilliant film showing what type 1, how it affects them before they even leave the house. Diabetes is a 24/7 condition, and there are many things that can happen before that journey to school starts and how that can shape the day for them. So we have that wonderful film playing for you now. So yeah, really great film there. So coming up, we've got the panel chat next, but just before we go to and introduce you to the panel, we're going to ask you some of those questions. So what is your connection to diabetes, and what are you looking forward to in tonight's event? So we've got, hi Nicola from Type 1 Kids, great for you to join us here. We have Sharon, an admin in an academy, thank you for joining and taking interest in this event tonight. And Sarah, thank you for joining as a head of primary school. So what a varied audience so far, that's fantastic to see. And Kaylee, welcome. Hope you find tonight's event very useful. Okay, so I'm going to now hand you over to Maddie for our panel chat with Jenny Foster from the Children and Young People's Network, Adele from Breakthrough T1D, and Ian French from Diabetes UK. Over to you, Maddie.
Hello. Thanks, Sam, and lovely to see you all on the call today. And yeah, that film really always gets me because it's kind of the reason we made this platform together, isn't it? It's that what's not seen and what these young people have to deal with before coming into school. So I think we're going to do some introductions, guys. I'll introduce myself first for those who don't know me. So I'm Maddie Julian, I'm CEO of DigiBeat. For most of you who will know a little bit about DigiBeat, we're founded by families with diabetes, really to make the connection between care in the clinic and care in the community, to strengthen those bonds really, and to make sure that we're wrapping care around families because it's a lonely place sometimes, diabetes. And I think the panel today bring all that with them as well. So without spending too long, I'm going to kind of first of all get you guys to all introduce yourself. So first of all, Jenny, you're nodding at me, so let's go to you first. Tell me a little bit about you, Jenny, and kind of your connection with diabetes.
Sure, no problem. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you all. I'm Jenny Foster. So I'm one of 11 network managers supporting healthcare professionals who are working in paediatric diabetes units across the country. There's 173 paediatric diabetes units, and we've split that into 11 networks. So I actually support the North East and North Cumbria diabetes networks, that kind of whole swathe of the northern patch just before you reach Scotland. So I support 8 acute hospital trusts and all the healthcare professionals that support all the children and young people living with diabetes. And essentially what that means is we make sure that there's equity of access to things like diabetes technology. We make sure guidelines are all aligned so that the care you receive, whether you are in Newcastle or you are in London, should be the same level of care no matter where you are in the country. So that's the main aim of the diabetes networks. As part of my role, I also get involved in some national pieces of work. So the e-learning for schools was one of those pieces of work that was assigned to me. So hence why I'm here today. So happy to be here. Thanks, Maddie.
Jenny, are you happy to also talk about your lived experience too, just very quickly?
Yeah, sure. If anybody's interested. I also have 2 sons with type 1 diabetes. They were diagnosed quite some time ago now. They're 22 and 20, and they were diagnosed aged 8 and 9. So brothers supporting each other through their lives with diabetes as well. So I do have that lived experience of going through the school system with 2 lads struggling with the condition. But I think I managed to bring kind of that view, a different view to this as well. So hopefully that was helpful alongside my sort of professional hat as well.
Thanks, Jenny. That's brilliant. Over to you, Ian. Then tell us a little bit about your role at Diabetes UK, but also your lived experience too.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be here today. It's such an important topic to discuss and such a great resource to be sharing. So I'm Ian French, the Type 1 Services Programme Manager at Diabetes UK, and I manage our Together Type 1 programme, which you might be able to see on my jumper, for young people aged 11 to 25. So it's directly in that kind of going to school, transitioning from a primary school to secondary school into high school and whatever. And we're there to connect people up with their peers, to look at that kind of more wellbeing, holistic support, and schools is a big, massive part of that. So I'm so glad to be here today, and working with Maddie and others has been really amazing to get this resource together. My personal connection to diabetes, my sister was diagnosed when she was 1.5 years old, and she is 2 years older than me. So I've lived with diabetes my whole life, and seen how that impacted my sister, specifically through schools. And just when I was showed this, the mock-up of this resource and everything that was going into it, I just thought how much of a life changer and game changer this would have been for my family if it had been around when my sister was going through education. So it's so great to be here tonight.
Thanks, Ian. That's lovely. And over to you, Adele, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Are you? So I'm Adele Irwin. I am Community Content and Information Lead with Breakthrough T1D. I keep nearly saying JDRF because we've changed names. So I am in charge of our community content. So basically anything that the community are flagging to our community engagement team, I am in charge of getting our resources updated or reviewed or new content and helping to shape that from our side. We have a very active outreach email address that people can get in contact with us if they're having issues, and schools is one of those big issues that people will get in contact, because it's a minefield for young people and parents and teachers. And so when you were working on this resource, I was so excited, and I know that Maddie knows my background as well. So I have a young person who is maybe 18 in 3 weeks. So he was diagnosed when he was 7. So we have went through the school system with type 1. And I also have a big network over here of parents and young people called the T1 Club that I'm involved with. And it's the big topic that scares so many people, scares parents. Teachers want to know more information, and the work that you have put into this platform, covering the topics that need covered. It's been so exciting for me. So I'm so happy to be involved with it and you know, try and help get this information out to people.
Thanks so much, Adele. Well, actually, I think it's time to say that we've done together, haven't we? We've worked absolutely solidly together. And I'm going to start the first sort of question with to you, Jenny, about like, you know, how and why do you think this project started? Because it did have a history, didn't it? There was already something. And how, you know, what difference do you think it makes us all kind of as the third sector coming together as not-for-profits and charities to make this stuff work for the greater good? So over to you, Jenny, first for that question.
Yeah, no problem. So a very sort of similar idea came about many years ago, sort of 10 years ago, to develop a virtual training course for teachers and other people supporting kids in school with type 1 diabetes. And it was developed back then, sort of 8 years ago, in a really great format, again, together with colleagues from JDRF, as it was then, and Diabetes UK to put together the training. And what actually happened was it became really, really successful. Lots and lots of teachers, TAs, accessed the training and learned so much more about type 1 diabetes and what impact it has on children, alongside getting support from the healthcare professionals who would come into the school and support with an individualised school care plan. But what happens in diabetes, and what has happened in diabetes, certainly in the last couple of years, is things have exponentially changed. You know, the environment we're now living in type 1 diabetes is so technical in terms of the diabetes technology that's available with pumps, CGMs. Now we've got hybrid closed loops, aid systems. So we needed to reflect those changes. What's also changed a lot is the emotional burden is really being recognised now on children, young people living with diabetes. And those two things weren't really covered that well in that original training all that time ago. So it needed refreshed. And we've, you know, over the years, the Children, Young People's Diabetes Network that I work as part of, we've built some fantastic relationships with the sector people, with industry, and really we wanted to bring all of that together. We've got some amazing experience within our networks with the healthcare professionals and also our extended stakeholders. So we really wanted to bring that to the review of this e-learning. So we kind of went back to the drawing board a bit, didn't we? And we kind of looked at the original slides. We pulled in some experts on things like emotional wellbeing, so psychologists working with children, young people around the region, around the country. We brought in dietitians who are working with children and people with diabetes in their vicinities around the carb counting of food. And we brought in some of our tech experts, the healthcare professionals that are working with diabetes technology day in, day out, and got their opinions. We also got families involved. So it was a very quick process. I don't know how we pulled it off, but over the course of about 8 or 9 months, we got a lot of subgroups together to review the original content and create the new content, obviously alongside DigiBeat. So the other really important connection to this is the individualised school care plan. Very much have involved, sort of kind of made sure that themes within the individualised school care plan, which is an e-platform for that as well, is matched with the training that's included in this e-learning. So as we move forward, the two really important key bits of information that schools need to know, the individualised bit and the generic understanding of what it's like to live with diabetes, are matched together through this platform. So I think that was another key, really important thing that we did with this. So, and now we've launched and we're at the point of making sure it gets out there.
Yeah, and thanks, Jenny. I mean, I think that's a really good point. And the platform isn't to replace any care. It's there to hopefully help teams sort of expedite the understanding of what type 1 is, how it impacts emotional well-being, what the technology is, so that schools, if your school teachers are on the call right now, it will help you understand, you know, what it all means, because it's quite daunting going into the clinic and not having that understanding as well. So going with that prior knowledge is going to really help And as a parent, you know, we often go in and teach the staff, and you know, if the staff haven't had any understanding of the technology and stuff, it's difficult for them to grasp all the other stuff. So it's there to help sort of pump prime the training, but the individualized training is still important. And it's a good point. Can I just come to you quickly, Adele, and ask you, why do you think it's important that school staff are enabled to have the time to do this sort of thing? What difference do you think it makes? How does it help?
I mean, it just means it gives these young people who are, you know, it's a struggle to go to schools on days where hypos are there, hypers are there, you know, all the things that they're living with, and to have teaching staff that understand what these young people, I mean, that film, every time that I watch that film, it gets me every time, because that's the reality of a day. And if this platform can help people understand that that's what these young people are facing, and just to give them a bit of help, give them a bit of support, you know, that's what it's about. It's just to make young people living with type 1s day at school easier, and to make their teachers and their staff supporting them to help them have more knowledge as well. You know, knowledge is power at the end of the day. So the more people know and the more they can support people, the easier this can all be. So
yeah, and I think there's probably a link in there around learning as well, because I think as a teacher, you know, by profession myself, I know that if my young people in my class are not, you know, in range, they're not going to be able to learn. And we're going to hear a little bit about that as time goes on. But that kind of zoning out because they're high or whatever has such an impact. In actual fact, the evidence says that there's potentially a 5-grade difference in children whose diabetes is not managed well in schools to those in GCSEs, to those who are managed well in school. So that is a lot. So that recognition, I think that's a bit of work that, Jenny, we're picking up with the network and NHS around how we influence policy, because it's not just the, you know, I think the platform's fantastic, the care plan's fantastic. And if we can underpin it with policy as well and look at, you know, actually, what does it mean? You know, why is this so important? So I'm going to bring over to you, Ian, now, Ian. I mean, you work with lots of young people who have talked to you. And when you came to, you know, our little gang to make this this work, you were talking a lot about, you know, what difference it made to those young people. Would you like to sort of talk a little bit about that, about your young leaders and kind of how that they were affected and what they were talking about?
Yeah, I think the big difference that a platform like this will make is it gives the young leaders and the sort of young people living with diabetes and their families just that confidence to go to school and know that there's an awareness of what's going on. There's an understanding that they might not always be like firing on all cylinders and be able to give 100%, but whatever they can give is good enough, and whatever they can give, they might need that kind of extra support. They might need some extra help and extra care, but it's all to help them achieve. And I think the point that you made, Maddie, about the sort of difference in actual performance and actual grades and things, that's huge. That's massive. So I think if we have a real understanding, and for the young people that we're working with and supporting, if they have that understanding that their teachers know what's going on for them, if they go to them and say, I'm feeling hypo or I'm hypo, they'll know what to do, and they'll have that sort of assurity and confidence that they're not going to be alone to kind of deal with it. We heard sort of stories of people that would go to a teacher and say, I'm hypo, and they'd get sent for a walk around the school to go and find the school nurse. And it's like, that could be a real tricky situation for that young person if they're left alone without any support. So just having that awareness of what's going on and how they can actually help will just bring that confidence to the parents, the carers, the young people, the teachers. It'll just improve, hopefully, life for everybody, and especially for those young people that are in schools. And I know that's what our young leaders have fed back about this this resource, that will just grow that confidence to be able to go and actually achieve and enjoy school.
Thanks so much, Ian. I think that is that confidence. So there's two major things that I think for young people over the last few years, tech's become more complicated, and for staff. They're managing a lot more. They're micromanaging their health a bit more than they used to. And there's a misunderstanding about that and what that takes to make all those decisions every day to keep themselves well. And this is really to prevent some of those long-term complications that we don't always talk about, do we? But, you know, we want to make sure that our young people are growing up having long, healthy lives. And that's why we're all motivated by doing this work. But also that their mental health is supported, because there was one of the things that underpins the platform is a wonderful study by a guy called Simon Pinney and his team at Leeds University, which evidences really all of these different sections that we've got in the platform. And you know, one of the comments that really stood out for me, and it's quoted in the platform, is young people saying, when people are stressed about their GCSEs or their schoolwork, I'm fine because I can deal with that stress. But when it comes to diabetes, I've got no one to talk to, and there's not even a school nurse anymore. And so, you know, that isolation, we've got to try and get allies in school. And so for all of you wonderful teachers who have joined us today, and teaching staff, TAs, head teachers, a big thank you, because, you know, it's a bit of a marathon, this unseen condition. And, you know, we're probably not the only unseen condition, but we're certainly one of the ones that takes a lot of minute to minute managing for that, and lots of calculations for that young person. And it is a burden and it's hard. So we thank you for being on our side and taking the time out tonight. So we have a show around next. So thank you very much, guests, for joining us, and just a huge thank you for, you know, the generosity of Together Type 1 programme at Diabetes UK, Breakthrough T1D, and the CYP Diabetes Network joining DigiBeat in this mission to really improve the lives of young people in schools. We're going to make a big impact this year. I think I'm not going to tell you what the impact is. I think it's going to be shown in the schools turnaround next, show around next. But it's good. It's, you know, in the first month, we've made a really good impact already. So let's spread the word, get it out to everyone. And I'm going to hand you now over to Tom. Oh, I think you're on mute, Tom.
Thank you so much, Maddie. We did have this question, so I don't know if Ian and Adele, who is still on the panel, and maybe Jenny, if she can come back. We have a student that I would say is struggling with being diabetic. Where can I find out more information so that we can support him in a school setting? What advice would you say, Ian and Adele?
I think this is a good one for Together Type 1 at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say there's a Together Type 1 webpage on the Diabetes UK website where we've got links and information about kind of stuff going on in different local communities around sort of information and resources, stuff that you can go through as a sort of teacher and have a look at and find out more, and then stuff that the student that you're supporting can access and can get linked up to other young people. We run kind of peer support activities, and are either one-to-one or in groups. And I think this young person sounds like somebody that would really benefit from speaking to somebody else in a similar situation to them, and just finding out what life is like for them, and kind of things that they can do. So yeah, there's a Together Type 1 programme at Diabetes UK, which I think is one of the QR codes that was shared earlier, can direct you to that page.
And don't forget as well the DigiBeat resources on the schools pages of digibeat.org. You go to secondary school, if it's secondary school or primary school, and you can get lots of lived experience young people talking as well. So that might be a door opener, as well as meeting some real people.
And can I just say, Emma, the best thing that you've done is put up that question, because it shows that you want to support him, and that's brilliant. You know, any information that we can share, anything you can get on our website. If you want to talk to anybody, I mean, we have our outreach email. Maddie was saying you can get in contact. You showing this interest will help that young person. So thank you for wanting to help them. It's brilliant.
Thank you so much, Ian and Adele, and also Jenny that jumped off. And thank you, Maddie. Brilliant start to our evening. So we will jump off the guys off the panel, and I am going to show you a little bit around the actual schools training platform. But before I do that, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Tom. I'm the Community and Training Officer here at DigiBeat. And I actually live with type 1 diabetes, have done for 17 years. I was actually diagnosed in school when I was 17 years old. And I have, before joining DigiBeat, I was a teacher for 7-8 years, a couple of years in mainstream, and also 4 or 5 years in SEN. So I'm going to show you a little bit about the school training platform. So before I do that, I want to show this short little video to just give you a little teaser of the amazing platform that already has thousands of people signing up for. So check this out. So there we go, just giving you a little teaser of the brand new schools training platform, www.diabetesinsschools.org. So here it is on the screen for you guys now. So if you haven't already seen it, go check it out. And on the website, you will see lots of other resources that you guys can look at and use in your school setting. So all the staff at school can support the child or young person with the diabetes in school, primary school and secondary school. So on our website, we do have lots of information. We have a team page that has all the information about the team that got involved, all the collaborators, as Sam and Maddie mentioned in our introductions. We have a resource page that has lots of resources for you to download and use, from guidelines to resources that can help with the management of type 1 diabetes. So we have type 1 diabetes resources, we have legal responsibilities, all the guidelines and resources there. We have tech resources, food management, sports and exercise, and also community resources as well. There are also some type 1 diabetes comics, so go check the Resolve comics out as well. So we go back up to the top. You'll also see there are practical skills, and in here you can see all the practical things that you need to know to help manage type 1 diabetes. And obviously you would get the support from the diabetes team, the nurses and consultants who would go through the training. But in here you can understand a little bit more about type 1 diabetes. You can learn about how to check glucose levels, learn about ketones, how to give insulin injections, safety needles, techniques, which is very important, site rotations, treating hypoglycemia, carb counting, from the basics of carb counting, weighing and measuring, a guide to competitive sports, nutrition, and then there's information about severe hypoglycemia, and then things about glucagon and a glow there. So lots of practical skills for you guys to go check out on the Diabetes in Schools website. So go check it out. Once you've registered on the course, you can then see the dashboard, and you can do the primary or secondary course, and everyone in school can do this course. So if you're a head teacher, a teacher, TA, admin staff, caretaker, supply staff, sports coach, a nurse, you name it, everyone in school can do these courses. If you're not part of school, if you're a parent or healthcare professional, you can still do the course and register under a different organization. So go check it out. Once you've logged in, you can then do the two courses, as I've mentioned, the primary school or the secondary, or you can do both. So once you log on, you'll see this lovely welcome message that gives you a course overview of the new platform, and a welcome message from Dr. Fiona Campbell that will be joining us later on. And then you proceed through the course. I'm going to show you a little bit about what's inside the course if you haven't already seen it. So there are 6 modules for you to have a look at. So you've got an introduction to type 1 diabetes, diabetes care in primary school or secondary school, emotional well-being, which Jenny talked about before with the guys, that wasn't included on the last course, diabetes technology, food management, and sports and exercise. Once you've completed all 6 modules, there is a final assessment. Once you've completed that, you can then get a certificate, which you can then download and use as CPD. So let's go back up to the top, and we're going to explore a little bit of the platform together. So once you've logged on into the platform and to the course that you've chosen, you can then go through the courses. They are bite-sized. They are really nice different modules that have text, images, videos. And once you start, you get a lovely welcome message. And within each module, you have a outcomes of what the course or what the module will cover. And then it will also show you why the objectives matter to young people, that research-based theory that Maddie mentioned before. So let's explore a little bit in the platform. So you have explainer videos explaining type 1 diabetes, what is type 1 diabetes, how you can support a child with type 1 diabetes. There's a section straight away talking about emotional effects and inclusion and allowing that person to feel safe and wanting to join in and be normal and normalize living with diabetes. And there's some guidance there to look at how we use language and how important language matters, whether it's us talking to each other or teachers talking to children, etc., all staff. So check that out. It's very important, and you can download the relevant documents there as well. Within here, we also have information about the signs and symptoms of type 1 diabetes. So it'll help you then recognize the 4 signs or more signs and symptoms of diabetes. So in case you need to check other people, if you feel like they're displaying any symptoms, you can then speak with parents. So it gives you that knowledge and that awareness about type 1 diabetes. Then you can start to see there's different information here, from glucose monitoring to insulin therapies, and then overviews about food. There's hypos and hypers from Caroline, who is a DSN in Leeds, and there's a module on exercise and activity and breakfast and after school clubs. And we know this course is being reached out across the whole country from a variety of staff. So hopefully this introduction module gives you insight of what type 1 diabetes is. As you go through, you can then start to see module 2, which is about diabetes care in primary school, which is a bit more specific because you've chosen that course, and you can hear the views of parents telling you how they feel about their children's diabetes and the care and support they get in school, how important and how vital that is. You can then see lots of videos from cognitive development, which we're going to check out shortly, and then information about exams, day trips, residential. So going back to what I said before about that young person being included and feeling safe and wanted to join in, these sort of helpful bite-sized sections will really help you know that they can do it, and they might need a little bit more support. There might be some forward planning that needs to be put in place, but they can still do it. Diabetes doesn't stop them. As we go through into the emotional wellbeing course, which is brand new, you can see the Matthews video that we showed in the introduction by Sam. And then you can hear children talking about their experiences of being in school and the emotional impacts of that. So go check that out. It's very, very heart welcoming to just hear their honest thoughts. So go check that. There is a psychologist, Becky Waldron at Leeds, who talks about the emotional impacts of diabetes and the impacts it has on children. So that's very important. And later on in the evening of the event, we're going to talk about myth busting as well. And we're going to show you some of them videos. In the next section, there is lots of information about technology. And what this course also underpins, the whole of it, shows that having a mobile phone, having the technology, you need it. It's a medical device. The child or young person need it. It's their life machine to manage their diabetes, okay? They're not there on social media or checking things out. They're using the CGM, the pumps, the apps to support their management of type 1 diabetes. So these videos are crucial to understand and educate and learn about their technology. Again, more detail about glucose monitoring. So you can see about finger pricking, all the CGMs, why a child is wearing a CGM, And then you go into the insulin delivery sections where you learn about insulin delivery systems, hybrid closed loop. The final 2 sections are on food management and sports and exercise. And you can learn about insulin, carbohydrates, portion sizes, special circumstances. So can children join in maybe, I don't know, a cake at someone's birthday? Yes, they can. So watch these videos and you'll learn about it a little bit more. And then in the sports and exercise, you'll learn about the different types of exercise. There are 3 types of exercise, as you can see there, and you can learn about how they affect glucose levels for children. Obviously, diabetes is so individual, and please go check out and look at the child's individual care plan. And that's a great starting point also to look at. So that is the school training platform, a little show around. I hope that is helpful. If you do have any questions, put them in a chat. But I'm going to pass back to Sam, and hopefully you guys, if you haven't already seen the platform, please go check it out, www.diabetesinsschools.org. If you have seen it and you have completed it, then please let us know what you think. And just before I hand back to Sam, here are some figures and some stats of the usage of the platform since it launched a month ago. So already we are having 8,000 people visiting the website and using them resources, as I showed you before, the practical resources. We've got 2,973 people registered, whether that's school staff or parents or carers, etc. Just under 1,600 people in schools are registered in a variety of roles, and then already just under 2,000 completions of the whole course and getting the assessment. So that's amazing to see that people are using the platform, and hopefully it's going to help them help that child and young person. I'm going to show you just quickly some feedback. So in this, we've had a head teacher say the training course was great. I feel all staff in school should do this course to learn about type 1 and how all school staff can support a child. A teacher in West Midlands, a great resource, should be compulsory for all school staff. A teaching assistant in the Northwest, it was helpful. It was a good training to have before speaking to the child's nurse and parents, as I mentioned before, looking at that individual care plan. The course was informative and I feel more confident when supporting the child in my care, says a learning coach or mentor in West Midlands. And then finally, an after-school club staff member in the East of England. Very detailed course with lots of useful information that I didn't know about type 1 diabetes. So you can see already people are using the training course and finding it very insightful to help that young person in school. So I hope that is helpful. I'm now going to pass back to Sam for our next section. So thank you so much. Any questions, please pop them in the chat.
Great stuff. Thanks, Tom. I think you'll agree that the platform looks brilliant. So thank you for that show around and that wonderful feedback. We really are thrilled and excited to reach more people with this platform and make a difference to our children and young people in school. Next, we are going to show you our film about the impact of type 1 on cognitive development and the time it takes young people to recover from a hypo or a hyper and the impact that can have on their learning. So here it is.
Hypoglycemia, hypo or low. What happens in the brain when blood glucose levels are too low? When someone's blood glucose levels drop, their brain starts showing signs that they are low. The early warning signs may be sweating. You might notice your student starts sweating. Heart pounding. They might say their heart is racing. Clammy hands. Their hands could feel wet and clammy. Hunger. They may suddenly feel very hungry. Pale. They may appear more pale than usual. These are all signs from the body indicating that it needs more glucose. If glucose levels are very low, the brain's function starts to be disrupted. It's crucial that low blood glucose is treated quickly, so they will need their hyper treatment. After treating the low blood glucose, it typically takes about 15 minutes for levels to return to normal. However, the brain needs a bit more time to catch up. Expect another 15 minutes for full recovery as the brain absorbs the glucose. If blood glucose drops very low, around 2 millimoles per litre, recovery can take much longer. It may take 30 to 40 minutes to stabilise blood glucose. It can take an hour to several hours, depending on the individual, for the brain to fully recover.
Brilliant and important explainer film there. It's these kinds of things that are really difficult to convey between parents and schools sometimes. Next up is our parent chat. We have Maddie and Luke discussing experiences from a parent point of view. Thanks, guys. Over to you.
Thanks, Sam. Hi, Luke. How are you doing?
Yeah, we're good, thank you. Noah's here as well.
Hi. You're going to come and tell us a little bit, though. Are you going to join us?
Yeah, Noah's going to join for a bit, yeah.
Yeah, great. So it's really great to have you, Luke, because I know you do lots of advocacy as well in diabetes, and I think we've got shared passions really for trying to improve things for our little ones who are growing up, and they're going into different sort of stages and things. So I wonder whether, first of all, Luke, you might introduce yourself a little bit, and then I'll sort of reintroduce myself from the point of view of a parent as well. So over to you first, and then we'll kind of go into the chat.
Yeah, no problem. So I'm Luke. I'm Noah's daddy. Noah's diagnosed at 11 months old, and he's now, how old are you?
7.
He's now 7. So we've been living with diabetes for a good long while now. We've been through various school settings, nursery settings, and things like that as well. So we've done a couple of different key stages now and different nurseries and things like that. So we're quite up on delivering the training, and Noah's quite good at being in the training and helping us with some of the practical bits, showing what the pump looks like, showing where Dexcom sits and things like that. So yeah, I used to be a teacher also. It seems we've got a lot of former teachers sat on here.
And a cub teacher.
And I used to be a cub leader as well. So lots of supporting children there. But yeah, so used to be a teacher and now work in the LMS industry anyway. So running through your LMS was really useful.
So that's learning management systems, I think, for all the non-techies on the call. Thanks very much. And Noah, nice to see you tonight, staying up late. And what do you, if you've got anything you'd like to say about yourself, and you like to introduce yourself?
Do you want to say anything like that?
I'm Noah.
A bit louder. No, okay.
No, okay, that's fine. No, well, you can chime in when you want with Dad if you like. So I suppose also from my end, Luke as well. So although we set DigiBeat up, I think we've got we've been through that too. So our son was diagnosed at 20 months. So it's kind of, we've had a similar sort of journey to you, although Noah was a bit younger even still. And I think the younger and younger they are, the hard. Oh, well, it's all tricky, isn't it? Diagnoses at all ages are tricky, but like you, we've been through a few schools and things now. We've done a little bit of moving as well. So there's been a few challenges there. So I think it'd be really great for us to just have a chat and for the benefit of others in terms of their experiences. So I'll start off really with saying, what's been the most challenging part of managing diabetes in school, do you think, so far for you guys? So let's kind of throw it open, warts and all. It's just to find out really what's the most challenging and what have you found most beneficial.
Yeah, that's fair. So I think the hardest thing is you go in on teacher training day, right at the start of the year when display boards are going up and you're going through your planning, your long-term planning, short-term planning, all that kind of stuff. And then I rock up with a big box of tablets, equipment. I come in with a big box. I plonk myself down and we talk for an hour around diabetes and what that means for me, what that means for Noah, and what it means for teachers as well, and how we can talk through that. And I think that the hardest thing is I'm only ever allotted a certain amount of time, and that will be the same for most parents, I imagine. And some parents might not get it at all. So being allotted a small amount of time, how much information can I get across from myself to them so that they're knowledgeable to look after Noah in the best way possible. So for me, that is the biggest challenge. And being a former teacher, I like to talk a lot. I like the sound of my own voice. So that's quite hard as well. But yeah, that's probably the biggest issue.
So and do you feel sometimes when you go in to do that training, we're not talking now that this platform's done, but do you feel like there was enough prior knowledge when you go in?
No, and I think that's where this platform will come in. So I don't think there was any form of knowledge, and again, as a former teacher, I like to take it from the ground up. So it goes really from base level of this is what diabetes is through to this is how you can care for Noah, on a day-to-day basis. Having any form, and we're quite lucky because in Noah's school, there was a little girl called Millie who was involved in many moons ago, and they've got some residual knowledge of looking after Millie. So there's a little bit there, but equally the tech has changed in so many ways. So having some form of residual knowledge is nice, but for me as a teacher, when I was teaching, I had one diabetic child, and I struggled. I didn't know anything about it. So yeah, it's tough.
And I think probably share that because, I was also a teacher. So when we're creating this, I can remember having lots of young people in my classroom, especially when I was working in special educational needs with lots of different disabilities, medications and things, competing priorities. And it is really challenging. So for all you teachers on there, we have absolute uppermost respect for you because it's really hard. And what we're trying to do is give you some tools to help, prime your knowledge so that, because I've often go into the training at the beginning of the year, whether it's a new school or a new school year, and you're sort of, sometimes you don't even know who you're going into, do you? So you think you're going to train like 3 people and then like 20 people turn up, or the reverse. And then you're sort of left thinking, how much do they, because they're looking at you and sometimes there's other things going on and they're distracted and they're looking at their phones and you're thinking, I've got half an hour to get across all this knowledge. So if we get people to do this training, I'm hoping we get to a stage where when we as parents go in and the healthcare team do the training as well, we're sort of talking to the converted then. They're understanding, everyone's on the same page about what it means emotionally for diabetes, for the tech for diabetes, and actually kind of for learning as well, and the difference that those 5 grades might make to a child. So I mean, we're talking now about primary, but let's talk a little bit about secondary as well, because I think you're an ex-secondary school teacher, aren't you? And so thinking about that transition, my little boy's now going into secondary school next year, and actually we know that we don't get much time in secondary school as parents. They don't really like us in a lot of the time. People, maybe some secondary school teachers might correct us, but sometimes it's challenging across the country, and this is what we hear, about getting that support. So getting those advocates in school are just really, really important, because the children are only 11. They're not adults.
Not self-sufficient.
And it's not like tying your shoelaces, is it, Luke? You might expect them to go to school and they tie their shoelaces, they remember their lunch or their violin or whatever else you're expecting them to remember. But diabetes is a lot harder. So I don't know if there's anything else you want to say about that in secondary school.
Yeah, I guess so. I think the issue inside the secondary school is that as a secondary school teacher, you don't see the child, the singular child. So like Noah, for example, you don't see that child all day, every day. Like that's what happens in primary school, isn't it? You go from one session to another. Now, in the previous session, child might have had a hypo and they're still recovering from it. How do they get from one lesson to the other? How do they move across school? So yeah, I think it's quite tough in secondary school to get. You've got Pikachu. There you go. Say hi. There you go. How do you get across? You're now putting me off.
How do you get that? Yeah.
Yeah, that sort of. This has happened in this lesson. You're going to move across to a second lesson, be it from maths to English or similar. How do you get that knowledge across that something has happened, be that a text message or writing down on a notepad? So we've got a notepad for primary school and we use that quite substantially, and the teacher fills that out. That could be something that might be used in secondary, but we've not got to that point of diabetes management yet. Thanks, Darren.
And I think what is this about really? Why does it matter? And it matters because lots of young people don't feel comfortable managing their diabetes, especially in secondary school. So I don't know, you might know when I close it is, but ignoring things is not really an option, is it, with diabetes? So we need to be giving young people those spaces, that place, that wellbeing area maybe, where they feel they can go and comfortably carb count or look at or just reflect or just have a bit of downtime. And some people, young some young people with diabetes, have also got additional things like ASD and autism, and that's another kind of complication. And we have obviously some young people too that develop, sadly, some issues around eating and things, and these are things that we have to take on board, isn't it? We have to think about, how do we make it the most comfortable we can? And it's hard sometimes to convince someone to do 2 hours of training, but those 2 hours of training might make the difference between somebody actually having a connection in school and not, having an advocate in school and not. And if you're the type of person that's made it to this call tonight, then, big thank you. And maybe you can convince others as well that, it does matter. Speaking of which, I think in a few minutes we've got a young person who's going to be talking about why the platform's important to them, and actually their involvement as well in making the platform. But before we do that, do we just talk very quickly about the school care plan? Because whether you use a digital one or whether you use a paper one or whatever else, how important is it to have a school care plan, do you think, Luke?
Yeah, so this year we've used the digital one, which has been awesome, and the ability for every sort of stakeholder in that care to comment on it, review it, and sort of live and breathe it really is really, really important. So the care plan obviously comes from Noah's team at the hospital. They fill out some different elements in there. It's then passed to us to review and check and add our thoughts in, and then school see it as well. But having that sort of centralized document is really great, and having everybody in the process singing off the same hymn sheet is really useful. And I'm not expecting teachers to memorize this document. Just have it to hand. If you forget something, it's there for you to look at. If something goes wrong, it might be there for you to look at as well. And especially in secondary school, you might need to refer to it a bit more. You don't have the day-to-day that you have in primary. So having that quick reference guide care plan is really useful. What do I do if X happens? Child has come into my classroom looking like Y. So we heard a little bit about those hypo symptoms earlier on. What can I do? What can I do at the start of my lesson? Can we just have some quiet time to begin with to let that learner readjust and that kind of thing? So having a centralized care plan, hymn sheet type thing is really useful, but getting everybody invested in it, teachers, the healthcare setting and parents as well is key really.
And I think the training is really important for understanding the care plan too, because then you understand the sort of terminology, because it can be technical at times. But I think as a parent, one of probably the most challenging things is when you find the care plan sort of locked in a cupboard in a different building or something like that. It really needs to be with that, whoever that child or that young person is, needs to be with them. I suppose last things really, we know that some young people require ECHPs. They may have, for diabetes, they may also have it, with autism or if they've got other conditions as well. I don't know if you've got any views on this, Luke, but from DigiBeat's angle, and I think from the teams and the networks and things like that, everyone's diabetes is different, isn't it? And everybody needs a different level of support. Is there anything you'd like to add to that?
No, I think you've really hit the nail on the head there, Maddie, to be honest. So everybody's diabetes is different. Noah's diabetes is different to, we spoke about little girl earlier on, very, very different. And what you'll see next with the child is going to talk about it. It's very different, and how all that terminology that we speak about, hypos, hypers, etc., how they affect Noah as an individual, for me, obviously, as a parent, is key. But for the teacher, it's just a case of, well, we're in my lesson now. You've got an hour with me. I need to make sure you're healthy. You're not having a hypo. This isn't happening, and you're learning. But then you're going to go somewhere else. You're going to go to somebody else. It's going to be somebody else's problem. So having that, problem's the wrong phrase, but you get my gist there. So having that is useful.
Yeah, and having a bit of an understanding that if a PE lesson has happened, there's going to be an after the PE lesson, isn't there? I think that's what you're picking up on there, and those staff will change hands, and certainly in secondary that's a bigger issue, although we both get to look forward to. But anyway, big thank you, Luke, for joining us today. I really appreciate it, and I think if the big takeaway there is, young people with diabetes may or may not have an ECHP. they may or may not need additional help depending on their age and their competence. They may need a lot of additional help when they're younger. And really it's about looking at that child holistically and having those. So I think we're going to pass on now. We've got a question very quickly. So Emma Roberts says, we have care plans in our school that all staff members can access. That is brilliant. You might want to get in touch with us and have a chat about your school. You could be highlighted for good practice. We're always looking for those. Dr. Fiona Campbell has put on OBE, I should say. Thank you for joining us today, Luke and Noah. It was great to have your help and all the understanding and how we can help you with your diabetes in school and all the other young people that need that support as well. Together, we can make a big impact, I think, and we will. And we'll keep shouting loudly to get that support for children with diabetes. So thanks very much, Luke, and we'll hand back over to Sam.
See you later.
Great discussion points. Thanks, guys. I think lots of our audience this evening will be resonating with what you've said. So thank you. Next, we have Amelia. Amelia is an amazing young leader from the Together Type 1 programme. She helped us to review the school's training platform from a young person's perspective, which obviously is very important. So here she is sharing her experience of managing Type 1 in school.
Hi, Amelia. Welcome to DigiTalks. How are you today?
Hi, I'm good, thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you for coming on today to talk about your lived experience when you were diagnosed in school and also talking about the new schools training platform. So thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
So Amelia, to start, could you tell the community watching when you were diagnosed with type 1 diabetes and how old were you?
So I was diagnosed in 2022 and I was 18 at the time.
What technology do you use to manage your type 1 diabetes?
So I have a Libre 2 sensor and then I'm on multiple daily injections.
What is your go-to hypo treatment, Amelia?
Either juice, like orange juice, or Haribos.
And what do you like and don't like about diabetes?
I think the thing that I like most is kind of the community of other people with diabetes. The thing that I don't like is having to wake up in the night because of hypos or hypers.
So now, Amelia, we're going to talk about your lived experience at school and talk about the new schools training platform, diabetesinsschools.org. Can you tell everyone your experience of managing your type 1 diabetes in schools? What was it like for you when diagnosed?
Yeah, so I think like with most things with type 1 diabetes, it's a bit of a roller coaster. There are days where it's fine and you can manage it on top of everything else you're dealing with, and then days where it was harder. I think the teachers that you have makes such a difference, because I knew that days where I had classes with teachers who understood diabetes or made an effort to understand what I was going through, then I felt much calmer and I kind of enjoyed those lessons a lot more. Whereas on days where I had teachers who maybe didn't understand it as much or kind of didn't give me space to explain about it, then I definitely felt more anxious and things like that on those days.
So the important message from you really is that it's important to talk to your teachers and school and so they're aware about your diabetes and how best to support you.
Yeah, because obviously everybody will want support in slightly different ways. And so if you are able to talk to your teachers or other members of staff, I guess, about how they can support you in a way that really helps, then it makes you feel better about going into school or about, doing your lessons and I guess exams and things like that as well.
So what's your thoughts on school staff having diabetes awareness and knowledge about type 1 diabetes? Why is it important, do you think?
I think it's so important for school staff to be aware of diabetes and to have more knowledge about it. So I think so many people, especially within kind of teaching and education, most people really do care about their students and they do want to kind of make things as easy as possible. But I think a lot of the time it just comes from a lack of knowledge or lack of awareness that then leads to maybe decisions that aren't super helpful, or attitudes that kind of come across badly to those of us living with diabetes. So I think the more staff that have that awareness and knowledge about type 1 diabetes, the better the experience is going to be for students living with it.
Absolutely. And do you think it's important that all staff at schools, primary schools, secondary schools, that all staff have training and have that awareness and that knowledge? So from the head teacher to teaching assistant to the caretaker to all admin support staff, do you think all staff should have training?
Yeah, definitely. Because I think there's, I guess, maybe a certain argument that it only needs to be the teachers who are dealing with that particular student or students. But you never know when something might go wrong. Like, you never know when you're going to have a hypo. You might not be in an area where there's a teacher who knows you particularly well. So if all the staff are aware and all the staff know how to deal with those situations, then that's going to make things a lot safer and a lot easier, so that, you know, if you are mid-hypo and you're with members of staff who've never experienced that with you before, you're not having to explain it to them at the time. Like, they already know what's going on. So yeah, I think it's really important that it's all members of staff, not just kind of, I guess, your form tutor or not just your subject tutors.
As a young person with type 1 diabetes, I know you had a look at the new skills training platform. What did you like the most about it?
I think there were two things that I really liked about it. Firstly was actually all the kind of scientific videos and stuff, because there were a lot of things on there that I actually didn't know, or I had been told but had kind of forgotten. Stuff to do with like how long it takes your brain to kind of come back to normal after a hypo and things like that. So I found that really interesting, kind of from my own perspective, as well as like the perspective of people who were doing the training. But also I loved all the videos where you've got other young people talking about their experiences and what it's like to live with diabetes. Because yeah, even though I do live with diabetes, I don't know what it's like for everybody who's living with it, especially seeing videos from children who were diagnosed at the very beginning of primary school, for example, is very different to my experience. So that was really kind of eye-opening, I guess, to see some of their lived experiences.
Absolutely, so important, isn't it? Hearing the lived experience of the child, but also we heard from parents as well.
Yeah.
Was there any particular module that you really liked, or really feel that staff at school will really gain a lot of knowledge from looking at it and finding more information about it?
I think the one that's really stuck in my head is the kind of sections about hypos and hypers, I guess because it is one of the most relevant things day to day, and it's one of the things that can be scariest if the people around you don't understand it. So I think that was definitely the module that stuck in my head, but there were a lot of others that were really kind of interesting and useful. That was just the one that I think, I guess if I had to tell people to just pick one module to do, it would be the ones explaining hypos and hypers, so that you know what to do when people are dealing with that.
Do you think it's important that school staff complete this training platform? And how do you think, Amelia, it will help children and young people in primary school and secondary with their diabetes? How do you think it'll help them at school?
Yeah, I think it's so important for school staff to complete the training. I mean, it's such a good resource to be out there for them to use. It doesn't take ages to get through. It's not something, you know, that's going to take weeks and weeks of working. And it gives such a clear insight into what it's like to live with diabetes, and also as to like what you can do as a member of staff to help and support the student with diabetes. And I think school can be such a scary place to be as someone with type 1 diabetes, both with regards to, yeah, like I said before, kind of hypos and things like that, but also just the pressures of still trying to keep up with your academic work and social life and things like that. So I feel like school can feel very overwhelming. And that's definitely made worse when you have staff who don't understand what you're dealing with. You know, on occasions where staff may kind of keep pushing you to try and get higher grades and things like that, but you know that you're not able to do certain things because, you know, you've had a bad week because of diabetes or something like that.
Absolutely. Diabetes is 24/7, and there's a particular video in the actual platform, Matthew's video, which kind of shows that Diabetes starts before the school gates open, and
Yeah.
it goes on throughout the whole day and carries on even when the
Absolutely.
school gate closes, right? So it kind of shows that, doesn't it, that
Yeah.
diabetes is always there. And people like yourself are making so many decisions all the time, isn't it?
And I think, therefore, because we are making those decisions all the time and we are dealing with the condition 24/7, sometimes it does make it hard to, I guess, take in information from lessons or to write your homework and essays and things like that, because you've got so much else to think about. So the more members of staff who understand that, and of course they still want you to put the effort in and they still want you to get good grades and things like that, but the more members of staff who understand how difficult that can be and how much stress diabetes adds to the existing stress of our academic education system, will just make the experience, I think, considerably better for young people with type 1 diabetes, so that they just feel like they're not having to deal with it alone and they feel like they're understood.
Absolutely. I think that support network is so important. So, Amelia, you said you're part of the Together Type 1 program within Diabetes UK. As a young leader, obviously, you've got many friends who are young leaders. Why do you think the new training platform is important to them?
Yeah, I mean, kind of within our group of young leaders, we've spoken quite a lot about how important it is for teachers and school staff to be educated on type 1 diabetes. I mean, almost everybody in that group was diagnosed while they were at school. And so everyone has different experiences, but kind of the fundamental thing that we all agree on with it is that everyone needs the education and school staff need the awareness. And it's so encouraging to see these things kind of coming out, because hopefully it means that future generations of young people with type 1 diabetes will have a more positive experience.
Thanks for joining us today, Amelia. It's been great talking to you about your lived experience of living with type 1 diabetes and sharing your thoughts on the new schools training platform. So thank you for coming along.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thanks so much to Amelia for her valuable contribution and perspective there. It's so important for us to work in collaboration with young people themselves and help to give them that voice. Next, I am very pleased to introduce you to Dr. Fiona Campbell, OBE. She's here to give her clinical perspective on why good diabetes care in schools is so important. Hi, Fiona, welcome. Thanks
Good evening. Hi, Sam. Good evening, everyone. Lovely to be here.
Would you like to just introduce yourself and share your thoughts about the school's training platform, Fiona?
Well, I'm absolutely delighted with the end product. I have been around quite a bit and was involved in the development of the original platform that we heard Jenny outline earlier on the talks, and we kept it going for as long as we could, but the time came that we had to modernize, digitalize our resources and bring them up to standard, I would say, for our current practices looking after young people with diabetes. So we're all on the digital platforms now. We can hear live from our young people. We can hear how important it is for them to be supported in the school environment. And we can hear from professionals who really dedicate their lives to looking after these young people. And the really important thing is, from an educational perspective, is that unless we can really help everyone living with diabetes while they're in school, while they're at home, while they're playing at the weekends, doing sport, unless we can help keep their glucose or sugar level within the nearest to normal ranges we can, we're not going to help them optimize their performance in anything that they do. So as adults, we're responsible for making our young people comfortable, happy, learning, and confident in what they do. And managing diabetes has to be just an inconvenience for them, but never, never a showstopper. And as adults, we need to take responsibility for that wherever we are. So as our young people spend I don't know, 7, 8 hours a day in school during the school term, we're calling upon our teachers and any of their teaching assistants or anyone in the school to support these young people live their best life when they're in school, just as we call on their family to help them lead the best life when they're not in school. So this is what this is all about. And we know that teachers don't get up in the morning to do a bad job. None of us do that. So we're trying to give you the tools in the classroom to help you understand diabetes, make you feel confident, and support your care packages that you create around everyone when they come to you as pupils. So hopefully you will find the resources useful, and we're very, very keen to have your feedback so that we can iterate them and make sure that they are supporting you in the workplace. So that's really all I have to say, Sam.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you, Fiona. It's really good to get your perspective, and obviously you've been very involved in bringing everyone together to work collaboratively, and I think that's what the key theme that's coming out tonight. We all work together, we all want the same thing, and we all want our children to have that good education but be happy and thriving as well. So thank you for all of the work that you do, Fiona. You don't have that OBE for no reason. We really value everything that you do. Thanks, Fiona, for joining us.
No problem. Thank you very much, Sam. Good.
Thank you. Now, let's hear from the young people themselves in our myth-busting films. Myth-busting plays a really big part for the children and young people with their friends and peers in school. As we've heard throughout this evening, these thoughts and feelings are so important. So here we go.
Some of the things that people get wrong about type 1 diabetes is that they think it's your fault that you have type 1 diabetes.
A lot of people get wrong is that I can't eat sugar because of type 1 diabetes, which is entirely not true. I just have to put insulin in.
My friends say that I can't have certain foods, but I can.
Yeah, sometimes like some of the younger kids say, "Oh, is that a phone? Do they have games on it?" I'm like, "No, they don't have games on it." "Is that a phone?" And I have to say, no. It's a thermometer for my diabetes.
Diabetes never sleeps and it never stops when I'm on holiday.
There's this one really annoying question that everybody always says, and it's, can I have diabetes because I want to eat biscuits or sweets in class?
I had my sensor on my arm showing because I was in PE, and then someone said, "Have you had a COVID vaccine?" It was about COVID time. I was like, "No, it's my sensor."
It's not my fault, it's not my parents' fault, it's no one's fault, but it just really annoys me.
Probably the most annoying thing is, why do you get treatment in class? Why do you get to eat this and that? It makes me quite annoyed, but I don't show it really.
When people say silly things about type 1 diabetes, it really gets on my nerves.
You never really get a break from diabetes, but you have to learn to get through that. I'd like people to know how it feels to go low or high, but that's kind of impossible. And I'd like them to understand more. And when they ask me if they're giving me something to eat and asking if I can eat it, which I obviously can.
People just hear like that I'm diabetic and they're like, "Oh, were you born with that?" I'm like, "Well, no, I wasn't born with it. I got it when I was 6.
It can happen to anyone. It could happen to them. You don't know. It could happen to them two days the next day. You don't know. When it happened to my mate last year, he didn't do anything for it. It's just unfortunate, really. I got it when I was 2. I had no help in it.
You're not born with it, and it's autoimmune disease. Nothing you could have done to prevent it.
Like they say, oh, it's probably just a diet, and really it's not a diet. It's something that stays forever.
They do ask me if I've eaten too much cakes. That's why I've got it, which is quite annoying, and I don't like that question.
I always think that I can't eat sweets, or I have to watch my food or something like that, when really I can do whatever I want. It doesn't really stop me.
the constant attention that's being drawn to what you're eating, which can be so damaging, and is definitely something that I have tried to like fight against in my own head and fight on other people's behalf for. So then when I hear or get comments directed at me, I think that really like grates.
I've got this little pump here. People think it's like a what's it called? An iPod. People think I can play, or it's like a mini monitor or something, and I think I can play on it.
My diabetes will never go away, and I'll always have it.
And it never sleeps, it never leaves your body, it just stays there forever.
Say if someone says something and then they're like, they might not understand what it means, and it might mean, I kind of just say, do you know what that means? They're like, no, and I'm like, oh, okay, I might take a second to explain.
It's a constant thing on your shoulders, like.
Sometimes when people say silly things, it makes me feel annoyed and sometimes upset.
So that finishes the event for us this evening. Sorry we have overrun very slightly, but lots of great conversations happening, and we hope you've enjoyed watching this evening. Just one final thing though, we would like to hear from you if you've got any feedback. So if you could spend the next few minutes filling out a survey for us. These events are for the community, so your input and feedback is so important to us. Remember, you can watch this episode on demand on our DigiTalks webpage, as well as our previous DigiTalks events. Any final questions that you have, you can put in the chat box and we'll answer them for the next few minutes or so, or do drop us a line at hello@digibeat.org anytime. Also, we have a dedicated email for queries relating to the schools training platform. I think that's been shared in the chat throughout tonight, but in case you've missed it, that is schools@digibeat.org. So if you've got any particular questions or issues with the schools platform, you can use that email, but don't worry if you forget it, our hello@digibeat can forward that on for you. We hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks again for joining us, and thank you to all of our wonderful speakers this evening. We really appreciate your time and expertise, Jenny, Adele, Ian, Luke, Amelia, and Dr. Fiona Campbell. Thanks everyone, and again you can check out our resources here. So just these few closing slides if you want to stay on for the end of the evening. Thanks again and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks everyone.